Something like that.
All right.
Welcome to Two Guys with Guitars. Thank you for joining us again. I'm Eugene Edwards, and that's Dr. Dylan Caligiuri right over there. Right there. He's really here. Look at him.
Hey, everybody.
Right there.
Right here in the flesh.
And then, so we want to thank all of you that checked out our premiere episode last week. We're happy to return. We haven't killed each other yet. Dylan, I actually got over here, and Dylan was buried under 50 pounds of cable.
That's right. HDMI mini
He was
cables.
barely breathing. We got to get the jaws of life. We pulled him out, resuscitated him, and he woke up. And the first thing he said,
tranquilizers. Give me. Oh,
he said, gains consciousness, and he says, country guitar. I said, country.
That's not what I would ever say.
I said, look, it's you. Who am? What's my name? He says, country guitar. I said, what year is it? He says, country guitar.
Yeah.
That's all to make it
soloing. Country guitar soloing.
Country soloing.
Yeah.
Add some twang. Add
twang to your life.
Smelling salts for the man.
Yes.
So we had a question last week leading up to asking about how to get started playing lead country guitar. And now, again, I always have this thing about, lead is fun. Eventually, when you play enough guitar, playing rhythm and playing lead, they kind of sort of become sort of the same thing. Hopefully,
yeah.
It's just about playing appropriately. So we're gonna talk about a few things, a few techniques. That
I want to throw. So lead is like driving, like you drive for show and you putt for dough. Lead is like, I'm John Daly, I can hit the ball 400 yards, but can you putt it in? And playing rhythm is like the putting. It's like, this is where the money's at. This is what determines whether we can play the song. But if you can play lead, it's flashy. You're going out to clubs, sort of Studio 54. But
lead guitar, Studio 54.
Yeah. But realistically, just remember this: rhythm guitar, you guys, is where the money's at.
True, but we are gonna so we will talk about rhythms a bit today, but we are going to talk about some three techniques that we're going to show you that will add some country flavor to your playing. And we're already having a bunch of hellos. I see Daniel McLaughlin is watching from
Daniel,
LA.
thank you. Jeff Bonilla, Jeffrey.
Henry Coppola from Connecticut, the Nutmeg State, I believe.
Yeah, and Scott. Man, all you guys. Keith, everybody's here. This is getting
Marilee in Eastern Oregon. She's way out there in the country.
This is getting wild.
The Adventures of One Wire is here with the enigmatic name.
That name insists upon itself.
But love seeing Scott Fogelman, Lorraine, some Keith. Yeah, I think I saw someone else earlier. Sean Brisbane.
Sean.
So we recognize some old familiar names, man. We really, really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for being here.
Now we will discuss the three things to add country. Also, right now I want to mention thank you to those that signed up and supporting us on our Patreon page.
Yeah, there's been actually quite a few people that signed up.
Very pleased about this.
It saved me from the brink of I was just gonna jump.
Financial ruin.
I was gonna jump.
Yeah, I came over once we got him out of he was wearing a barrel with suspenders.
I was wearing a barrel.
He was that classic look. We got to bring that look back. But banks are failing. Why don't I see more barrels? With just being worn with suspenders.
The whole hobo thing has really run out of the public favor.
Right. So, and if it's your first time watching us, welcome to the show, and let us know if you're joining us for the first time. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to see
Darren, don't give up on country guitar, man.
What did Darren say? Is he giving up?
He loves rock and metal, but he's grown to appreciate country guitar and jazz as well.
So Darren, there's going to be more crossover than you think. So you're going to, especially the metal stuff, believe it or not, you're going to use a lot of that precision.
Yeah.
In your country stuff. Don't and by all means fuse them if you can.
Yeah.
Are you about to do some sort of metal country
thing?
I
was just it's the same thing as all right. There's no difference.
It's almost just a difference in scale. It's the different scale you chose to play.
It's just a difference in vocabulary.
There you go, vocabulary. What else did I want to mention? Let's talk about the gear a little bit because you might end up starting. We'll start. This guitar here was made for me over 20 years ago. It's just a parts Telecaster made by my friend Fred Morota down in San Diego at Naked Guitars. He was doing repair work for me throughout the 90s when I was a kid. And then he came into a couple of pieces of really light swamp ash for bodies. He says, "Do you want me to make a guitar for you?" At the time, I was touring a lot with hollow bodies, like Gretches and Guilds, like old hollow bodies, but we were in vans and the temperature changes and we would go up into Denver and then we'd be playing the flats and hollow bodies don't like these changes in elevation and climb and stuff. So I thought, well, I should probably just have a real basic telly that I don't care about, one that I can just throw on in the back of a van, throw onto a plane, and it'll withstand all these different, conditions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he did. So he took the body. I think this is a Warmoth neck, the Seymour Duncan hot lead here, and a Seymour Duncan quarter pounder in the front. And then, as he was making it, we never did settle on a color. He says, "Well," I said, "I don't know." So he never even put a lacquer on it. So it's just raw wood, and it's been really beat up. There's a gouge here from all the heavy picking and all this. You see that?
Well, yeah, it's very nice. It's very nice. Yeah.
But then it became my number one guitar. Like for the better part of 20 years, I just replaced everything. And then since I got the Dwight gig, I play all of Dwight's guitars, so my stuff never goes on the road.
Right.
So this has kind of been just sitting in the garage quite a bit. So I'm starting to take it out to clubs more and play it a little more. So that's the story on this. And then for right now, you see these nice amps behind us, but
they're total props. There's nothing inside of them.
They're actually facades.
No, we will use them eventually, though. We're going to do some gear reviews. We're looking forward to that, you guys. So if there's some gear that you guys are interested in hearing a review about, make sure you put it in the chat.
Let us know. And then what are you playing?
Oh, I'm playing just your good old-fashioned American standard Stratocaster with animal-style fries, pickups.
Animal-style, very California.
What did you say? Quarter pounder
this
pickups?
Is a quarter pounder.
Yeah, well, these are animal-style fries. And this is
it's very slick.
No pickles on the
very slick reference.
Yeah, so.
That looks like a very nice cleaned up version of the Strat I was playing last week.
Yeah, this thing. I mean, Strats are country guitars too. You can really get
very
down.
Much so.
You can hurt somebody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can play country on any guitar. Now, of course, there are some guitars that are more suited and maybe are used more often, like the Telecaster.
Yeah.
Certainly, we'll talk about kind of some of the elements of the Telecaster that lend itself to country playing, and the Stratocaster too. In fact, I mean, obviously, as most of you know your guitar history, the Telecaster was made first by Leo Fender, and then a few years later, he thought, well, I need to move on and make a different guitar,
right.
a new model.
Yeah.
And the Strat ended up being, if the Strat was just a bunch of improvements, if you will, from the Telecaster.
Yeah, they're pretty similar guitars.
They are. And for instance, and Leo himself didn't play guitar at all. He had a little, I think he played a little bit of saxophone or something like that, but he was a radio repair guy.
He was good friends with Les Paul, though.
Yes. Yeah. He tried to lure Les Paul
That's right.
as an endorser, but it didn't work out. But Les kept the 1951 broadcaster that Leo gave him as an enticement. Les held on to that.
He lessified it, yeah.
Anyway, like guys were playing tellies, and of course Leo's based in Fullerton, California at the time, so most of the people playing electric guitars were playing country music. Country and jazz, really. That's all you're going to be playing in the clubs back then. So some of these modifications, like some of the guys would like to do volume swells to emulate a pedal steel. And you see on the Telecaster, the volume knob's all the way down here, so you'd have to reach with your pinky pretty far to get, or volume swell, sorry.
But you can do it on this guy.
But in the Strat, the volume was really close. So that was to accommodate.
And the two-piece bridge and all that.
And the floating bridge for the tremolo, again, emulating a pedal steel, all that sort of stuff. And the little curve in the bout there, because again, if you played in clubs, you most likely sat a lot. And so
your shoulder. So if you have an older style telly, actually, is that So I have a 72 Deluxe. It's the same style. It's just a block of wood. So your shoulder's a little, it's a little bit of a non-ergo thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think they had the word ergonomic back then, did they?
That's a famous French word. It's been around for a very long time.
Huguenot, you're thinking.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the gear we have that's about the guitars we have right now. And then we're going through the GTX. I think I've got just some sort of country.
Same
setting.
here.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about the three techniques, shall we? And I haven't even paid attention. Do we have any questions so far?
They want to hear us play. That's what I read.
Oh, okay. So should we just play?
Well, so let's demo the first one. So this first one is hybrid picking. And so if you're new to guitar, don't worry, because we're going to take care of you. We're going to show you a way to sort of soiree into country soloing for your first time. But that's coming up right after this hybrid picking. We'll give you an example of this, then we'll go ahead and talk about it for a minute.
I'm just going to strum like a 12 bar in E, and Dylan's going to show you some hybrid picking. How's that?
Okay.
Sound fair enough?
Yeah. So it's like a little bit of a mix of standard playing and hybrid picking, and you tend to sort of soiree back and forth between them.
I don't think you're using soiree correctly.
I don't think I'm using it at all. Yeah,
hybrid because it's a combination of holding your flat pick and then using your fingers.
That's right.
So it's not all finger style and it's not all flat picking. It's a combination of. So obviously we hold our flat pick between our thumb and index finger, and essentially we're mostly going to use our middle and ring finger. Albert Lee, the phenomenal Albert Lee, he uses his pinky.
Yeah,
so that's
a super advanced level right there.
But essentially what we do is just take 3 adjacent strings. So you don't have to know all of Dylan's licks to get started. So for the beginner, just hold any chord. Hold a D major chord, if you will. And play your bass note with the pick. That would be your open D string. And then with your middle finger, just assign that to the G string, I should say. And your ring finger, assign that to the B string. And you hit your bass note. And then just pluck the other strings. Just to get an idea of the independence going from pick to pluck.
Yeah, and if you can do that, and maybe you're an intermediate or advanced beginner, so let's say you've gotten to the point where you can play bar chords, you can just play through each one of those. Play the root of the chord, which is going to be the letter name of the chord, the insides of the chord with the hybrid picking, the 2 fingers. And that's going to give you the ability to start to move around because it's like, okay, these fingers move, but these ones don't. Got it. And
so we don't want you to worry about your fret hand just yet.
No,
trying to combine them. So if you just hold a chord, and then if you want, then you can also arpeggiate. So again, hold that same D chord, and instead of pick and plucking both at the same time, just pick each one at a time. Get a little. It's called a forward roll in banjo world, actually. And you do this with any chord. So wherever your fret hand is comfortable, just find those 3 adjacent strings and get that going. If you want to throw in some chord switching. Any combination of chords will work. Like Dylan's A, B minor, G.
Yeah, and it's not just a country technique either. I mean, this is used all over the place.
Now here's where it gets countrified.
Yeah.
With the bare fingers, that plucking, snap them.
Snap.
If you get a little snap, and this is going to be part of this is part of the next technique we're going to talk. But if you bass note and then really snap those others, really kind of spanks it. Now this is also where we talk a little bit about tone. Now notice, actually, I'm on the middle position. I should be in the bridge here. Tellies have a lot of twang. It's just the scale of the guitar, the style of pickup. Ferris bronze bridge usually helps too, but it's a real bright sound. And if you do all your plucking way back towards the bridge, you're going to get a lot more, even more snap, as opposed to doing it up here closer to the neck.
Which is its own kind of cool sound.
Which is its own thing.
Yeah, that's its own thing.
There's a variety here. So
I can see that.
Feel free to experiment with that as well.
Go ahead. Something here. Loves her hunk of pine. Keith. Oh, so volume is too close on the Strat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people do accidentally hit the volume knob a lot on a Strat.
Honestly, there's people who literally take the knobs off on purpose because of that. You can also tighten you can get a pot that isn't too loose and doesn't allow you to change it very easily.
I know some people will rewire it. They'll make this just a dead.
Yep.
And then they'll put the volume they
in the second spot.
Yeah, exactly. So there's little modifications. But Hendrix, it didn't bother him. He somehow although he played it upside down though. So Hendrix had a solution.
I don't know if you guys have ever lost this little cap to your pickup selector before, but by the end of the gig, you will be bloody with.
Happens. It happens on Telecasters. Are notorious. For
that. It's the top hat. Yeah,
I absolutely bleed all.
You'll end up bloody by the end of the gig because
no joke.
Because you're playing, and this is how you're changing your tone. Well, you do that a couple 100,000 times, and it's just a nub. It's a bloody nub. By the time you get done.
There's a great fix for this, and maybe we'll do a workbench episode one of these days. But a really great fix if this happens to you tele players. So take the switch off. This is bare metal, and take a pair of pliers, really anything, and you're just going to gently and just put them over the metal there, and just gently crimp the metal post. Just a little bit of a crimp.
Dull it.
Just and then when you put your plastic back on, it'll actually grab onto it, and it's really kind of the only, other than like super glue or something like that.
Yeah,
which you don't always
even
want.
Super glue will eat away at the plastic.
Exactly.
Still won't work.
So that little crimp tip is a pretty good one. That's an old
crimp and curl.
Old.
That's right.
That's an old Tilly trick.
Crimp and curl.
All right. So the hybrid picking now also the hybrid picking can get very, very, very involved. Alternate bass notes, and it can get really, really fast. But it also kind of gives a little bit of a swing and a bounce to some of the phrases. Like I'm thinking like Working Man's Blues, which is in A flat, but I'll do it in A. It's a good example of, and I use my thumb for this. That lick right there. So my pick is just managing the bass note on the low E string, and then my other two fingers are playing the D and G. So they're not three adjacent strings. I'm actually skipping the A string altogether. I'm going to follow this pattern to the 4 chord. So it's a real classic hybrid picking kind of lick, you know. And oh yeah, exactly. So more about hybrid picking before we move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the banjo roll stuff that he's talking about, this is one of the coolest things.
So lovely.
I'm just sort of making something up, but I mean, you get the idea. So that type of a technique,
it's almost like a pianistic sound.
It really does.
Right?
It has a full-bodied sound, a lot of action going on. It takes quite a while of just, it's something you can do in front of the TV, though. So the cool thing is the mindless stuff. Once you have the basic concept down, you know you're not going to practice it wrong. That's a pretty important part.
Just do not practice things wrong.
So this is just 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3.
Does that make sense?
Basically, I'm using my thumb and index to hold the pick, and then I'm counting
the middle finger is 2.
Yeah,
and the ring finger is 3.
Ring finger would be 3. Yeah.
Now it should be noted that you're getting a real interesting sound because you're fretting the D string at the 5th.
That's
fret,
right.
Which is a G natural note, and then you're playing the open G
and
right
playing
next
an
to
open
it.
G next
so you get
to
this double, you get this unison effect, which is that's very country too. So
the pedal steel, you sort of the emulation, the open scales type of thing.
A lot of combination of fretted notes. That sort of runs.
And that's more of a rake style, but still very banjoistic. You know where I learned that stuff was from the Andy Griffith Show. I'm not joking.
The Andy Griffith Show had so much great bluegrass. You saw Flat and Scruggs. You saw, one of my guitar heroes, Clarence White. He was on there.
Oh,
when
yeah.
He was 14 playing in a bluegrass band with his brothers. What, you got a question?
Merrily is saying, you guys need to get one of those neck cameras so we can see what you're doing now.
Neck cameras?
Hey, Matt Lake is here, guys. Matt Lake is in the building. Okay, where's the confetti?
Now I'm nervous.
Oh, we left
Great.
it. Somebody ripped. Can you show them what camera 2 looks like right now? Just as it is.
Let me just bring it.
No. Just give me camera 2 on me. There you go.
Sorry.
Press camera 2. All right, so that's camera 2 so far, Merrily. Now we're working on it. As you can see, there's some edits. Oh, careful, because you'll pull the camera 1 out of place. There you go. And right now there's a protuberance in the way.
Yeah.
And so hopefully by next week
we should do the whole show just right here. This is great.
I think sort of a dog angle, if you will. Yeah. Yeah, next week we'll try to get camera 2. Hey, we got a plant in the background.
Yeah, this is.
I mean, come on. What do you want? That's a ficus?
It's a sago palm.
It's a sago palm?
No, it's not a sago palm either.
Anyways, so the banjo rolls, they lend themselves to, and they're a really cool way to play. When who's talking about the snappiness, this is where, so this is now for the intermediate to advanced players, right? So if you have your basic caged chords going, so you've got your open G, you've got your E version of G, you've got your D version of G, G, and you've got your A version of G.
Is that because I moved something?
Oh, we're back. You've got your A version of G. I wonder what all that means.
I don't I think we went off the
Chat
air
disconnected. We're trying to reconnect. Hopefully, we'll reconnect in a
for a bit.
second.
Now we're back.
We're back? Are we back?
Yes, he's successfully connected. And Eric L says, I totally noticed the plant, not a fern.
So basically, if you've got those spots open, you've got your basic kind of cage system down. This is where you can start to develop this technique. So sorry. So that's what
are you doing?
I'm taking the last two strings of each one of these cage positions and developing a pattern out of it.
Gotcha.
So if I'm in A, for instance, if I've got the A version of A, the G version of A, the E version of A, the D version of A, and the C version of A. So here's the top of that C version of A. This is a G. This is an A. And back to A. So that's the basic concept, is you kind of build a lick around the hybrid picking. So I would mess around with just being able to play through maybe a 2-chord pattern. And that's going to be a common pattern, which is the root chord A, whatever key you're in, let's say A for now, and then the chord that's a whole step behind.
Okay.
A lot of country playing happens between those 2 chords. So watch. 2, a 1, 2, a 1, 2. So that moving back between that chord that's a whole step behind and the chord that is your key, that's going to really allow you to get a lot of the country sound going on too.
Did we do that?
We did.
Did we
you want to try
G major?
Yeah. So here, I'll just play A the whole time. 2, 3, 4, and go to G. And back to A. Good. I'll do it. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that's basically combining G, combining A.
See, I never played, so I didn't know I was supposed to play a G over your A.
That's okay. That's
Sorry.
right.
Sorry.
That's
I was waiting for you to change.
Yeah.
All right. So hybrid picking, again, hold that flat pick here, use your middle and ring finger kind of to
And you're
play,
hybriding.
And you're hybriding.
Yeah.
So this will take, again, any, let's take a lick. I'm going to play something, let's see, I'll just play, just that arpeggio right there. But if we do it as hybrid picking, now I have individual control over each string, so I can snap them. I can do different muting things.
It's like pop, lock, and drop, but for country guitar playing. Oh.
So anyway, and you should build the speed, build the strength, but it gets to be a lot of fun. Now, the next thing we want to talk about, and this relates a lot, is chicken picking, which we talk about how guitar is usually, especially country guitar, we're usually emulating another instrument a lot. We'll talk about emulating a pedal steel, usually pedal steel or some sort of slide instrument. But in this case, we're actually going to kind of impersonate livestock because it really is. It sounds like a chicken, like you do a better chicken sound than I can. Okay, so there you go. So the idea here is that very first little sound he made was kind of a muted sound, and then at the end, there's a really loud sound after this. So this is essentially what we're doing when we're doing chicken picking. We're going to play a muted note, and that's going to be followed by, or maybe even a couple of muted notes. But then our last note is going to be quite loud and quite snappy, and we're probably going to snap. We're going to snap the unmuted note, for instance. So I'm going to play just here 7th fret D string. Yeah, I'll do A. And then that's going to be my muted note, and I'm going to use some palm muting to do that and the pick. But then with my middle finger, I'm going to snap the G string at the 5th fret, and you're going to hear this chicken picking. So mute, then fretted. So then real simple, it's just mute, snap, mute, snap. This is like the very, very beginner exercise. You can do this down at the bottom if you're more comfortable playing down here. Just take any fretted note to begin with. and mute it with your palm, and then snap any other note you'd like, and you get the basics of chicken picking. Now, if you really, really take this far, you get passages more like this. Go ahead.
Well, this is actually from Off the Wall.
Oh.
Or basically, like the chicken picking type of approach is all over the place.
I think in an R&B, I think we call it popcorn picking.
We call it popcorn picking. That's right. But it's
a combination.
You stay with the food group.
Yes,
is the main thing, and it's it's always grain fed. So if it's popcorn, chicken, corn fed chicken,
yeah. Sure.
So that's the main key. But in the country concept, so we've got. They really tend to accompany like a lot of pull-offs and hammer-ons and open string runs and things like that. But that basic concept it's a bit of a like an accentuated note is what they're really doing. And it's not necessarily something you do fast. It's something you do that's sort of quotable and it aims the audience towards the style that you're going for.
The intro to Turn It On, Turn It Up, Turn It Loose by Dwight Yoakam starts
Turn it on, turn it up, turn it loose.
That's the opening lick. Not even a tough thing to play. It's just that muted notes.
So Spanish music has... Okay, now country has... Like that's our call to arms,
it announces,
if you will.
honky
Yeah,
tonk.
exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
It announces it's time to honky tonk.
Now, can you think of other songs that highlight this sort of chicken picking thing? I mean, there's in fact, I was playing in a club the other night, the Cars, My Best Friend's Girl.
Oh yeah, that one.
So that solo is a really nice country solo that Elliot Easton plays, but at the end, it's got. I think that doesn't.
Yeah.
But before that is, I love that move right there. So he plays these approach notes. They're
He's
all
such a
muted.
great guitar player,
From
man.
fourth
He's
fret,
so good.
fifth fret, sixth fret on the G. Those are all muted. But then with his middle finger, he snaps the high E string at frets 7, then 5. And then he follows, think of like your E shape going down the CL. That's great. I love that sort of stuff.
Oh, we got You're Some Funky Clunkers. Now, I'd have to agree with you.
I would not try to say that 5 times fast. Oh, look what Adventures of One Wire. My favorite saying, slow makes smooth, smooth makes fast. Where'd you get that, Mr. Adventures?
Wow.
The intro to Amos Moses by Jerry Reed is another great example of chicken picking in a country context. That's Matt Lake.
Who thinks we should have Matt Lake on the show? Raise your hand. Rex, pause included. Yeah. I really think Matt Lake should be the very first victim of this show.
Guest.
I'm sorry. Guest. I'm working on the terminology. We're working on some of the angles here. But yes, a guest of the show.
We should have more guests. We already have a plant in the audience.
And we'll have chicken and popcorn when he's here. And I think, no, so there's let's see. Neon Moon in the neon moon.
That's a great example. Now, may I point that out? That figure goes all throughout the verses of Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn, right? And it's no, but
keep going. When the sun comes, sorry, yeah, okay.
On my side of town. Yeah, so, but you hear this little muted popcorn thing going on, or chicken picking thing. That's not lead playing. It's not a solo.
No.
In fact, the solo is very graceful and doesn't have it.
Solo's great.
Now notice I'm using my middle finger to snap that G. Really, really beautiful solo. But it runs throughout that song as a rhythm figure. But it certainly has that. In fact, here's another great song that just plays the same note throughout and in this muted. Let's see. I bought a toothbrush, some toothpaste, a flannel for my face, pajamas, a hairbrush. Yeah, it's got a lot of chords. But it's got a lot of chords, but tempted by Squeeze, Glenn Tilbrook just pedals this B natural. Yeah. It's really, really, really effective.
So, Trivial Pursuit moment of the show.
Let's
Ready? Oblique motion. Oblique
I didn't work out today.
motion.
I didn't work out today. I didn't.
That's it. So there'll be a test, an extra credit point, and you get a trip to.
What's oblique motion?
That's basically when you have lines that are moving in counterpoint, and one line stays the same. So if I have like, so one note was staying the same.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe another example would be.
But would it be something as simple as?
Yeah. So that's that open E that whole time. That was oblique motion.
It's just saying, he's just stays straight.
That's right.
And everyone else moving around.
Exactly.
Oblique motion.
Oblique
That'll
motion.
be on the written exam, folks.
Yes.
Now, also, let's see. Eric L says, for the practice while watching TV, I'm doing some slap practice on the bass while watching. Probably could get. No, that's great.
I
That's
love
a good
it.
idea.
That's fantastic. That's exactly what the plan was.
You know, the cool thing about a lot of these techniques, I really do like the things where, and I don't mean to. I don't want to denigrate the thing, but to be able to do some of these techniques without thinking about them anymore.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do them a lot over and over and over again. But you kind of want to get to that place where you're not really thinking. And now I have to admit that when students ask me to show them how I play something, I don't immediately. It's not immediately easy for me to tell them because I don't know what I'm doing, and I have to stop and think.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Different parts of the brain there.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I need
Helter
to
skelter, yeah.
I need to play it all the way through, and because sometimes I'm hybrid picking, and I'm not consciously hybrid picking.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Sometimes I'm just doing everything's flat picking, and I thought I hybrid picked, but I don't.
You know, I think the chicken picking's a great starting spot here because it's of all the techniques we're going to talk about today, and Matt has a good one. That's helter skelter is actually a great one. The chicken picking's probably the most
oblique
accessible.
motion, right? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So if you take a song like let's see. It's a Bob Marley song called. Anybody know the name of that
Could
song?
You Be Loved?
Could You Be Loved? Final answer. Lock it in, Regis.
I was gonna wait for the. I was like, I don't.
Yeah. But something that's that simple would be a good way to start, and you really want to focus on just the timing of it. So if you can start with a muted note and make sure you can do this. Okay, and then try adding the note in.
Now, let me ask: are you using palm muting? Or
No
you
palm
fret?
muting whatsoever.
So
I'm
now
muting
this
actually.
time,
What do we call this? We call this fret hand muting.
So explain what that is real quickly.
So I'm covering the strings so they can't ring out.
But you're not pressing it into the wood of the.
Not
fret.
pressing. If I press it in too much, you'll hear the note fretted, right?
Gotcha.
If I don't press it at all. So just that alone actually is its own. I mean, you got to imagine, you haven't been doing this your whole life, and you're not going to necessarily know how to do that, right? So from there, being able to accent these notes by pressing down.
That's a real beginner exercise, right?
That right there is already enough. And opening an open string and closing it with your fret hand to mute. So songs like that are going to be really accessible, and it's such a sort of a pointal lick in the song. Like you can't miss it. It's there the whole time.
Matt Lake agreed to be a guest as long as there's chicken and popcorn involved.
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker.
So Scott Fogelman asked what the turnaround I played. I think we talking. So this is I just played the open high E string, and then fretted the B string at the 5th fret. So I get a unison there, and then I take the B string, I dropped it. B string's at the 3rd fret, then it goes to the 2nd fret, 1st fret, and then open. And this is usually something you do like over an E chord. Or, yeah, so you can that's what the turnaround was. Sorry, I was just
no
messing
worries
with oblique motion. So back to what you're. Mara Lee wants to know: is it possible to chicken pick without a pick?
You can, yeah. You're just gonna have to use your thumb like this.
Grow that thumbnail along is my advice.
I actually, there's quite a few people that I've met over the years that are great players that play only with their thumb.
But,
and they're all over that.
Mark Knopfler,
yeah,
obviously he does a lot of
hybrid stuff. Yeah,
or the Sultans of Swing. Oh,
there you go.
But I was thinking something, the more country stuff in Sultan. See, he's snapping, but there's no pick involved. So, and there's muted and fretted things going. There's, wait, keep going. Try to do the first solo. Here it comes. You hear this muted. So that very first thing he does, he's raking, palm muting with his thumb, and then on the B string, see here, there's 3 strings that are muted.
Yeah.
And then he gets to that 4th string, and that's what's going to be fretted, and he goes with the bend. And the index finger is getting underneath that B string and snapping it like a rubber band.
And if you did that with a pick, it would sound. Do it with a pick for him. Show what it sounds like.
Idea here.
Yeah.
I automatically. Sorry.
It doesn't have the same type of flavor, does it?
It's not as dynamic. It's like all the notes were almost kind of the same, the same velocity in a way.
Now, can we discuss?
Yes, we can.
The elephant pedal in the room right here. Folks, compression is going to make all of this much more accessible.
This is why
if you don't have any
a real essential country gear setup, if you will.
Yes.
I would advise a tube amp. That's me. You don't have to, but single coil pickups, very, very good. We talked about this last week. You're gonna run your amp relatively clean. A little gain's okay, but not too much. You don't want this really saturated thing, and a little compression. Just it really now. And this is
a little to a lot.
Now tell or actually get a real squeezy sound. That's very
Mark
80s
Knopfler's
country.
got quite a bit. I mean, he's got to stick out on the mix. No,
tell them why compression. Why does this add some value to our country tone?
So compression is going to basically make all of your the notes that are quiet louder, and the notes that are loud softer. So it's going to compress the dynamic range. Dynamic in music meaning from quiet to loud. It's going to compress it to an area, and then it's going to travel along in that area. And what that's going to do is when you're playing clean, it's hyper dynamic. So when you're playing with a band, a rock and roll band in specific, you're not going to stand out in the mix unless you've got compression, because it's going to bring your nuanced playing, like he was just doing in the Mark Knopfler thing with your thumb.
So nuanced. I was very nuanced.
Well, attempted
No, I
nuanced
was.
playing. But no, so compression, you guys, is a big tool to this, and a basic compression setting. What happened? Jules,
Where's the tuner?
Oh, you want it? Here.
Oh.
A basic compression setting would be...
You guys could have told me.
Would be ratio 4:1. Okay. Threshold set to maybe -10. And then your release set to anywhere between 5 milliseconds to 50 milliseconds. The release is not quite as important as the attack. And the attack on guitar, you usually use a pretty fast attack because it's going to dampen the pluck sound of the guitar. It's basically going to bring that pluck is the biggest, most dynamic moment in a guitar's life.
That's the loudest thing.
Yeah.
In these licks.
To hear the compression, you want a fast attack. If you don't have a fast attack, you won't hear it. It's more of like something that's like limiting the overall volume after the peaks.
And so this is really what he says is true, and it really adds when you're doing these. Some things are muted, some things are going to be really loud. It helps put them right in the same frame. Yeah, and it does. It helps you be heard in the mix as well, because it's this very concentrated sound. So that's also key. And frankly, there's a story that Bonnie Raitt told that somewhere in the early 70s when she saw the great guitar player Lowell George of Little Feat. He's playing slide. He had a Strat. He's playing it, and she said, "Hey, how can I get really good at playing bottleneck slide like you do?" And he grabbed like a Dynacomp pedal, and just handed it to her.
Famous pedal.
It's really
turn it up all the way.
It was the first compression pedal. And if I play slide on something, I'll throw, no matter what even if I'm playing a really gainy tone.
It doesn't matter. You still need
compression. Really, really helps if you're playing slide as well, because again, it just kind of helps present all those notes. And there's a lot of ghost notes and things that happen when you're playing slide.
And then also
really
an SG
focus.
Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, SG, they tend to do very well.
Derek
Trucks is what. Derek, if you're watching, I love you.
Come on, but not till after we have Matt Lake first.
Well, and I need to clean up the house a little bit, Derek. So just don't give a guy a call first and let him know.
Someone says she's late, or they're late. I'm late. Been picking today. And this song is my fave. I don't even know what song we're talking about.
Speaking of song, let's do a quick song for them before we go into the third one. I have an idea. We played it earlier. It's a little song called "The Fireman."
Oh, by Jorge Derecho. George Strait. Oh, look at that. A lot of country technique going on so far.
They call me the Fireman. That's my name. You gotta help me.
I don't know the words. That's why I didn't pick the song.
Everybody like to have what I got. Cause I'm a rolling hot and I'm the fireman. That's my name. Take it. If anybody knows the words, would you please put them in the...
He started it.
No, but it's a great example of a song, like right out of the gate, there's about 50 of these techniques in the opening, like the...
okay, so I want to freeze right there.
Yeah.
I want you to tell them about a particular scale. Now, this is for beginners. Going back to the beginners.
Yeah. Nikki is not booked yet, but Nikki's coming, Eric.
Oh, that's right. Tell them about what scale is like, would be a great country scale. A very immediate way to add country flavor.
All right,
playing.
Absolutely. So if you guys are looking at my hand here, basically, I'm going to do this in the key of G. Not you, Eugene. So the concept here is, how can you I want to say soiree again. I can't say it, can I?
Why are you saying
How can you do-si-do into your first country riff? And I think the plan here is to be able to play a C major pentatonic scale. So if you got, I said C, I meant G. G is in goat. G major pentatonic scale. G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, G, E, G. All right, now, to make that sound countrified, though, so you've got your basic scale. We're going to add what is the equivalent of the blue note in blues. The country blue note, or that's what I call it at least, is the B flat, which would be the minor third. Okay. So it's a major pentatonic scale, but has a minor third in it. So we end with this.
But you're also playing the major third.
That's still playing the major third. And so instantly,
all of a sudden sounds really fancy and complicated. Well, don't do that just yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, the beginners. Yeah, so we've got G, A, B flat, B, D, E, G, A, B flat, B natural, D, E, G.
And then you put...
Right, and you guys may notice this is the same thing as the E minor pentatonic scale, right? So the E minor pentatonic scale. Now play a G.
No fair, you get to play the same notes.
Now, if I play an E minor pentatonic scale or the blues scale, I add the blues note in, I'm going to end up with the same thing. So it's going to add a completely different flavor to that. It still works really quite well, actually. But the concept here is you learn the G major pentatonic scale, and then you add the blue note for country, or the country blue note is what I like to call it, which would be the minor third in. So great exercises to figure out what would that be in another key, or trying to play it, where you picture if I have to fret where the open strings are at, and I move up one fret, what am I going to do?
Simple.
But that when you're starting out and you're first learning that is actually pretty tricky, because seeing open strings and making that transition onto a fret instead of an open string is actually a really useful skill to be able to do. So if you're there, challenge yourself by moving it up to a different key.
Now, here's the third technique we want to add, because believe it, we're starting to run out of time.
I know.
Already.
It's the yapping.
Double and triple stop bends. So, again, this is really about emulating a pedal steel guitar. And as some of you know, the way that the pedal steel guitar works is you some of the strings are attached to a rod, and then it's attached to a pedal. When you press down on the pedal, it pulls the string tight, sharp by usually a whole step.
You can set it though. You can make it half if you
half
want.
step, whole step.
Yeah.
So what happens is, in general, you would have the pedals tuned to an open chord, a certain voicing.
Yep.
And you put the bar across one fret, and you hear that chord, and then you press down the pedal, and just one of the strings is going to move. So talk about oblique motion.
Yeah, right.
I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
The pedal steel is all about oblique motion.
Yeah, it sure is.
So no, first we'll just do this as a double stop, meaning to doble. Is that a classical term?
Doble is correct. Yeah.
And here's an example. Now, let's say we're in the key of G. Try and use your cage system, your shapes, and I want you to envision, say, your A-shaped G chord that's way up here, 10th fret, and the top two strings would be the 10th fret of the high E string, and the 12th fret of the B. So that little double stop right there makes this really nice little harmony, little major third harmony. But this time I'm going to still with my pinky play the 10th fret of the D, but with my ring finger I'm going to bend the B string from fret 10 and I'm going to pull it up a whole step so that it matches this pitch. Always fret the pitch you want to play, you're going to bend to. So when I play them at the same time, I get that feel. So play a G major chord just for continuity. And then I'd give it a little bit of a little vibrato there, just kind of emulate the. So that would be a double stop bend. Now, of course, I'm really thinking ahead though as to what I'm bending into, right? So that makes it completes a chord. That's the first start there. And I hybrid pick that. I just noticed. Now you don't have to. You can do it all flat pick.
There's great players that don't hybrid pick,
but
double stops.
On that one, I use just my fingers. I got underneath both, but any combination is fine. So this takes a lot of hand strength.
It does.
Now, to bend a whole step, here's a little tip. Don't just rely on one finger. Now, I'm going to grab that string with my ring and index fingers as well.
Assisted bend.
Is that what it's called?
Assisted. I'm making it up now.
Yeah. Okay. So so it's like they're like spotters at the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, you do a volume swell.
Yeah.
Very, very pedal steel.
That's where the money's at.
Or even a tone swell. That's very, very. So so they're all over the place, but really make sure you know your cage system because that's going to really help you find the spots where you can kind of like bend into a chord shape, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the most kind of the first one that a lot of people learn is this guy here.
That's a triple stop.
It's a triple stop, and that's what we're coming to.
Go ahead and walk them through that.
So basically, it's the same concept. So you've got two strings now that are being held and static, while one string is being bent. So I'm holding the 8th fret on the B and the E string, and I'm bending up the 7th fret of the G string. A whole step.
Of course,
now
he's doing it on a Strat.
I'm doing it on a Strat, so it changes the pitch.
The floating bridge. So we talked about that last week, I think. So yeah, so on a fixed bridge, like a Les Paul or a Tele, something that doesn't have a tremolo arm. Notice how my strings.
You hear how these also went sharp too, though, right?
And now I'm hearing, that's awesome. Pretty trippy sound.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now, what you're bending into though, that's over C major. And the way I would consider, like your E-shaped C chord is here at the 8th fret. So the top two strings are being played at the 8th fret, and the G is being played at the 9th fret. What he's doing is he's actually bending the G from 7th fret a whole step to what would be the 9th fret. Now he repositions his hand, obviously, because he wants the strength of these other fingers to help make that bend. But even though we're hearing this, or you're even seeing this, you're really completing the top triad of this.
And you call it sounding. The sounding note versus the written note is what it's often called. So I
didn't know that.
So the sounding note is this E natural here. Natural, yeah. And what would be written is a D with a bend up to the E.
There you go.
And so that's kind of a way to think about it is you've got the intended sound, which is the sound you're going to bend up to, and the sound you're currently on, which is going to be behind the sound you're bending up to, if that helps at all.
Here's another E-shaped triple stop steel move here.
Yeah.
And this is a real elegant one. So again, if we're in C major, we're in our E shape. Again, I'm going to concentrate on those top three strings again. And this time, but I'm going to play it kind of really out of this shape. And I'm going to use my middle finger to bend the G just a half step up and down.
Oh yeah.
So and so that's another relatively, that's one of the simpler ones.
I like that. Yeah, I don't do that very much. It's what a vocalist would do, though. You know what I mean? It's the kind of undulation that a vocalist would do in a melismatic move. They would sort of do like a little half step bend,
and then a little vibrato.
Yeah,
it's a very vocal thing to do. That's
what's cool about country guitar. I mean, that's what it probably brings a lot of you to it. Is it's very relatable. It's very human in its sensibilities.
Best Friend's Girl has that. Those are double stop bends in the Best Friend's Girl. Now that's really that first one. I think it's so cool because it's over a B natural chord. So think of your D shaped B chord way up here, but then he's bending from the flat 7. So instead of the root note being there, the 12th fret, he's bending. And then the other note is the 11th fret of the high E. I think Bernie Lee does it at the end of Take It Easy solo too.
That's it. Yeah.
Over a D.
Oh, is it there? Oh, yeah.
Anyway, pretty cool. Kind of sounds weird out of context without the chord underneath it. I know, but that's country.
All of these are pretty tough, you guys. I don't get don't get dismayed, right? So you can
always go back and watch this over and over again too.
Well, we learned how to do all these with one lick at a time, right? So I literally learned probably that first because it's the songs always tend to end. A lot of songs end that way with that sort of pedal steel bend. So if you just find one that you like, just roll with that one and kind of do your best, leave the rest type of a situation. P90X, and it's not gone. And so what I think is that don't get intimidated by this. It is doable. It's just find one thing and run after that one thing at a time.
Another example before we go is the I'm gonna start bleeding all over the place.
He just poked himself with the string, you guys. You guys ever do that? Have you ever accidentally literally stabbed yourself with your...
So the beginning of Mama Tried, Roy Nichols plays this great intro, and it's and it involves a pre-bend.
Yeah.
So this is where you have the note bent already, then you strike it. So we only hear it coming down.
Yeah.
Now that's really, really hip because Roy Nichols is bending out of a D shape, really, and he's actually playing over a D7. Actually, we make it's a D9 technically because of the voicing he's playing. But I've got the E string bent from the 12th fret, pushing it all the way up for a whole bit, and then so you only hear it coming down. This is something that pedal steel players will do too. They'll have the pedal pushed down, they'll strike the note, then they release the pedal, so you hear this. Then he plays the second note, and then he repeats it an octave lower. And then he's done.
That's a really great lick too.
Smooth. So experiment with that with a pre-bend. Again, if you're say we're over our beloved E-shaped C chord, try a pre-bend. That sort of thing.
Yeah, you can bend and move. I mean, it starts to get pretty tricky after a while. Yeah. But it's a great technique. Even if you guys aren't into country, I think country guitar techniques, much like learning giant steps or something, they're going to carry over into everything else. It's going to make you a better guitar player all the way around.
A really wicked one. I saw Red Volkart play Together Again by Buck Owens, and there's that great pedal steel solo. And over the 5 chord, I mean, I saw it and heard it, but I couldn't quite his control.
Oh yeah.
So he's controlling that bend and going down in half note increments, and then frets it because it was so cool. I mean, I just didn't know that was possible.
Yeah,
so, like you said, it can get pretty complicated.
It can get pretty tricky there. But again, you guys, thank you so much for watching. We love making this show for you. Make sure you tell all your friends. People that are totally don't want to watch this, make sure you force them to watch it.
That'll work.
We're just going to continue doing it. We're going to make some original content for you guys on the Patreon today. And make sure you leave some comments in the box for us about what we can talk about what you think is interesting. And when we go out here, make sure you go out on a G for 2 guys with guitars. So if you can give us a G in the chat box there.
And also, I'm going to remind you, please go to the patreon.com, look up 2 Guys with Guitars.
With a Z.
What's that?
Guys with a Z.
Guys is with a Z. Also, in our social media, we try and put the links on there on the Facebook. It's certainly...
we're working on it. We're working on it. We'll get better. So thanks you guys so much for watching. We have a great show lined up for you next week. It's about building speed, not doing speed.
Right.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. No need.
But build it.
Play fast.
Make it anyways. And we'll work on that.
So, we're going to get some speed into your playing, and I guess we go out on a big G or like a country style G. We can do this all day.